Chapter 25. Candles in the Dark. Arul didn't lead us straight back to the graveyard. He took us down a street we hadn't seen before. "There's a church right by here," Arul said. "Let's go there and buy a candle to give thanks to God." "Thanks?" Muthu stared at him. "For what?" I couldn't believe my ears either. "You're thanking God the waste man took away everything we had?" "The waste man didn't take away everything we had," Arul said. "He threaded my free hand through one of his and reached out for you with his other hand." "See?" Arul said. And I saw. We stood in a circle, linked together like an unbreakable necklace. "No dogs allowed," Arul said when we arrived at the church. "Can you get him to stay here and wait for us, Ruku?" "Wait," you patted his head. "Wait." "We'll be right back, Cootie," I said. "Look after our stuff." "Because surely our stuff is so precious, anyone who sees it would want to steal it," Muthu joked as we laid down the bundle of things we salvaged from the bridge. As Arul shut the church door behind us, Cootie whined softly, but you didn't seem to hear him. You and I only had seen churches from the outside. Inside, the church was dark and quiet. Faint streams of light danced in through the rainbow-colored windows. Straight ahead, instead of a stone image of God or goddess, hung a wooden cross with a carved figure of Yesu, bleeding, with thorns wound around his head. "Awa," you whispered. "Awa." "It's just a statue, Ruku," I whispered back. "It's not alive." "It's God," Arul said in a reverent tone. Then he led us to a place where rows of candles were flickering. He dropped a coin in a box and lit a candle. "We thank Yesu and Mariama," he explained, "by lighting candles, and we pray that they'll keep us safe." "Isn't it enough if we just pray?" I said. "Must we actually burn our money?" Muthu chuckled. Arul placed his candle beside the others. You watched as intently as when you made your bead necklaces. Then he held out a candle to you. "Careful, Ruku, that flame can give you an awa," I said. Even though I knew how good you were with your hands, I couldn't help warning you. After all, you'd never held a burning candle before. Worrying about your safety was a habit I couldn't cure, and I hoped I didn't sound bossy. "Wax drips, and it's hot." Arul placed his hand over yours, so you were holding the candle together. I watched you set it in place. "Again?" you said. Muthu and I flopped down on a small wooden bench and watched as Arul let you buy and light one more candle, and then another. Your hand trembled slightly, but your gaze was steady with concentration, your tongue between your teeth. "Enough?" I suggested, but you ignored me. "She's hearing the voice of God," Arul whispered. "Too bad she can't hear my voice. Telling her to stop spending all our money on candles," I whispered to Muthu. "Soon we won't have any money left." But you were so in awe that I decided not to argue. You seemed to melt right into that moment, kneeling before the candles, your eyes fixed on the moving flames. And they were so beautiful, those little flames, dancing in that still, silent church, dancing like they could hear music, like they were alive. Alive the way you were alive. Alive right there, right then. Not worried about what might happen if in a few hours or days, not remembering what had happened before. I heard a sudden snap, the sound breaking my, but not your, reverie. A kind-looking woman who must have been watching us the whole time had snapped open her handbag and started rifling through it. Our eyes met. "We're not beggars." I assumed she was looking to give us some change. "It's not money." She held out a small rectangular card. "Can you read?" "Of course." I snatched the card out of her hands and read it aloud to prove I wasn't lying. "Dr. Selena Pinto, Director, Safe Home for Working Children." Below that was an address, a number, and the name of a street that sounded familiar. a street I remembered in the nicer part of town. "I'm Selina Auntie," she said. "I run a home for children and help them place them in schools or learn a trade." School! My excited shout echoed through the church. At last I found a person who could fulfill my dreams. "We don't need free stuff," Arul grunted. "We work." "Our children work," she said. "They pay for what I provide by working for me, keeping the place clean, obeying my rules. No smoking, no lying, no stealing." "Stealing?" A man wearing a long robe entered through a door I hadn't seen, right by the altar. He glanced down at us anxiously. These strays are trying to steal, Dr. Selina?" "They're not stealing, Father. They're lighting candles," Selina Auntie started to explain. But the boys didn't wait to hear any more. "Come on, Akka." Muthu scampered out of the church. Arul pulled you out, and I followed. You blinked sulkily in the sunshine that had briefly broke the clouds. "Now you want to find another church, boss?" Muthu said to Arul. "So we can give thanks this priest didn't accuse us of stealing and send us to a policeman?" "Priests don't accuse kids who are in God's house," Arul said, but he didn't sound very certain. "Well, it's a good thing that priest showed up," I said, "or we would have spent every last coin on candles." "Did you see the faith on Ruku's face?" Arul said. "Her soul's going to heaven for sure, with mine." "Good for your souls," I said, "but can we please use what's left of our money to take care of our stomachs too?"